Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the universe. This is the CoinGeek weekly live stream, and I am your host, Mr. Kurt Wookert Jr. I may or may not be fighting a cold right now. I'm a little bit. I've had some. You might even hear it right there. I've got that like mild congestion that typifies the beginning of a cold, but I've had that for about 3 days now. So. Not sure if I've got the London flu or whatever's going around for this pandemic cycle, but feel okay. I'm okay, but I've heard a number of people are struggling post conference because we all hang out and kiss, so that's a bit of a problem. So if you're watching, however, let's not talk about the difficult things. Let's talk about you hitting the like, the subscribe, the alert bell, all of that stuff for the show so that every single time we go live and you get our updates and all of that jazz from CoinGeek. Just sort of settling in. I'm back home, back still kind of jet lagged also. So that might also be why I don't feel so well. It might be like a mix of allergies and weird sleep cycle. When you travel back and forth a quarter of the way across the planet inside of 10 days, your body is not sure when the sun is supposed to go up or come down. So I'm a little bit in that circumstance too. And it's kind of just how it's going to be, actually. So here's what I will tell you, everybody. If you are currently watching the show, first of all, thank you. And second of all, if you could send this, whether you're watching on the X or the Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or any of the other places where we stream, restream, and whatnot, if you could send this out, like reshare, let people know that we are live and that we would like to take your comments. And the reason I ask is because your comments are a major driver of the whole thing. You're the reason why I get to do these shows. If people didn't watch, what would I be doing with my time? So let's make sure to perpetuate that, because God knows I'm otherwise unemployable. Certainly ask Greg and his cohorts. Nobody would pay me to do anything if I wasn't doing this. So let's make sure we keep the coffers full. Do I have a cup to jiggle? Here we go. Help. There's nothing in there. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's no change. I need the change. So we are back in the saddle here, and we are rocking and rolling. Our guest this week is going to be Ruth Heasman, who is something of an old friend at this point. She's a member of the broader community, as we like to say here in the blockchain space. She's a big blocker and something of an artist and a purveyor of information in more ways than one. She's also just a delightful person. And I'm looking forward to having her on shortly here. So if we could take a moment, I will wet my whistle. We're going to play an ad for you, and then we'll be back with Ruth Heasman. So yeah, that's it. We'll be right back.
BSV is more than another chaotic commodity craze. BSV blockchain can do more than just be a crypto investment. It can help you get more out of your games, share more of your art. BSV makes more things possible.
Hey, Ruth.
Hi.
All right. Welcome to the show. I think this is definitely the first time you've been on solo. I can't remember if you've been on the show as part of an ensemble in the past.
I can't remember either. That's bad, isn't it?
I mean, we've definitely spoken in a medium like this.
You definitely came on our show. I'm not sure if it's the way around. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, I like to go through people's sort of Bitcoin genesis story a little bit. So how did you get into Bitcoin? What was your first exposure? What was your first reaction to the concept or the technology? And how have you become this person who you are?
Embroiled, as I am.
Embroiled. Yeah. That's a good word. I like it.
No, I basically was very concerned after the 2008 crash, and I started to kind of save in silver and all those kind of things. So I was sort of primed, if you know what I mean. I knew there was a problem. And then about 2010 or 2011, I honestly can't remember which, YouTube showed me a video about Bitcoin, and it was very, very early, and I went looking for more videos, and I think I only found 2 or 3 tops, right? Because it was so, like nobody really knew about it at that point. And then I had just had a baby, so I didn't mind, unfortunately. Wish I had.
Yeah.
And then in 2013, Mt. Gox came along, and I thought, finally, like a legit way for me to just push some money in. So I did that.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky. I got my coins off before it folded. So,
yeah.
But after that, really, I just was very into Bitcoin, very fascinated by it. And then essentially around 2016, 2017, it just became unusable. The fees went really, really high. I realized that they were breaking it. And I was very depressed about that for a while. And then looked into Dash a little bit, looked into BCH a little bit. And then 2018 came along and I found my home. So I've been here ever since. Bit overinvested is the truth, probably.
No, for sure. Well, and I think it's funny. I think a lot of us have the same story. It's certainly echoes of my story in that, I discovered Bitcoin, like, oh, wow, this solves all these problems. And then, some of the problems that it solved, it stopped solving as well as it had the year before. And so I had my own foray into altcoins. I was super intrigued by Ethereum when it was brand new and that kind of thing. I got into mining that and that kind of thing. And some other stuff too. I found Monero fascinating because it was so different from the other stuff. And, so exactly that, you become a tourist a little bit as you're learning what does or does not work. And then ultimately circled back when the block size war was like, oh, okay, like big blockers are going to put up a resistance. Like, okay, cool. I'll join that because, basically Bitcoiners that believe that Bitcoin can as the answer to all questions. So no, good stuff. The main reason we've asked you to come on today is well, first of all, I like you. Me and you had a good chat in London and stuff.
Yeah, we did. Mainly because I was just looking for a chair, honestly. But I did really enjoy talking to you. So I found a chair and now I'm not moving. I was
at the table with the pizza, so
I know.
It's hard to.
You were looking for the pizza. I was looking for the chair. Yeah.
There you go. So, well, actually, let's talk a little bit about the London blockchain conference since we did both attend, and this is the first show since. What was your experience? Because I know you've been to a couple of these things over the years.
Yeah.
What was your thought? What was your thought on London Blockchain 2024 relative to your other experiences at shows like this?
I actually really enjoyed it, probably more than any other, actually, and that's probably because I've known people for longer, and everyone's just was super friendly. And I just quite like the layout of it as well. I thought it was quite nice that it was all on one floor in one place, because I felt sometimes in last year's conference that being on 2 floors or might have been 3 floors. I
think it was like 3.5. There was even some like VIP areas that were in like a mezzanine and stuff. Yeah.
And it just felt quite disjointed. So if you wanted to go and find somebody, you had to go and find there and stand there and wait until they were free. And if you wanted to go and eat, there's no one around you. So it felt kind of a little bit lonely, like you're missing opportunity to have a chat with somebody. So I actually really preferred the layout this year. It's quite a difficult venue to get to because it's like East London.
Yeah.
But once you're there,
fun,
it's actually really good. So I'm kind of hoping they maybe do it there again next year. I think that was quite a good choice. And I just found everybody to be very uncomplicated and ready to talk and just very, very kind of welcoming to each other. And I made some new friends, which is amazing. Shout out to Shirley. And caught up with a load of people who I just don't get to see very much. So it was fab. I just thought it was kind of coherent, right?
Yep. Well, I think the interesting thing is that in years past, especially when things were CoinGeek conference, it was very sort of BSV cheerleader event, which was cool. I liked them, obviously, but they didn't work so well as kind of outreach events. And I've been a big advocate for hey man, we've got nothing to hide, and we should invite everybody to come
Well,
play
that
or
was the
come
other thing I
compete.
noticed. There were
So
thousands of people there I didn't know. So there were like
yeah.
lots of people there I did know, but there were many, many more people I didn't
Mhm.
know. And I thought that was a really good sign.
Yeah. No, growing the circle was a big part of it. So
Mm.
that was a good time. I think for me, also the fact that there was no, you kind of looking back, it used to sort of be okay, all right, Calvin's going to give his speech, typically by a video, but just kind of like lay of the land in the thing. And then, Craig would give his like
Mm.
Darth Vader speech about,
Yeah.
whatever the, whatever the thing is, that's being worked on, behind the scenes. And that would happen almost every day. There'd be a Craig, walk out and do his thing. And then also you kind of had your technical update from Steve Shatters, and you had there was just
Mm.
there were these sort of anchor things that happened at
That's
every
right.
event that
Yeah.
like we didn't do any of the typical that you would expect from any of that kind of thing. And then I liked the fact that there was the day before the conference, there was the BSV DevCon.
Yeah, I was a
And
bit disappointed. I tried to make that and I couldn't find
yeah,
it. I arrived late, but
it was
yeah.
awesome. And it was awesome for a couple of reasons. First of all, it was attended by, I don't even know, 200 people, or it was huge.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people there. It was much more technically oriented, given that it was a DevCon, but also it was nice to get all the sort of BSV red meat stuff done with what was ultimately our crowd, like the few hundred of us that are actually involved in business and development and all of this stuff. It's like specifically in the BSV space, and then have the open conference be a much more sort of open arms and
inclusive.
hey, this is our little slice of Switzerland kind of thing. And so I really enjoyed. I think just from that standpoint, like the dual event and the layout, and I just think all of it worked really, really well. So,
and I was surprised because I thought, I'm going to miss Craig not being there, and the usual kind of structure of the thing and everything. But I kind of didn't. No offense to anybody. I mean, because I enjoyed it in previous years. But it was fine. I didn't miss it. There didn't feel like there was a hole in it.
Yep. No, I agree, and I thought the same thing. I was a little bit like, man, how's this gonna be?
Yeah.
And no, it was quite good because you forget how many people that you do know who maybe you forgot to remember, basically, and then you see them, you're like, oh hey, it's really good to catch up. And then but then just all the new faces. Like I made a lot of genuinely interesting connections with new people. In fact I have a follow-up call with somebody I met right after the show today. So I mean I'm out there trying to blaze a trail with people and talk business and all that. So it's been good good to fill up the calendar with new faces and stuff too. So no, that's really cool. I'm glad glad your experience was
really successful, and just looking forward to next year, honestly. Yeah.
No, for sure. So I see a couple of questions, like people asking like, why wasn't it available online? So as I understand it, and I should be like full clarity, I had nothing, like less than zero to do with any kind of management of the conference. So in previous years, there like CoinGeek related conferences, I would have some input on and that kind of thing as a CoinGeek person, but LBC is its own like separate entity and module and all of that kind of stuff, and I have like zero to do with it. So I don't know when video is coming. I had heard that everything was filmed and they're going to be rolling out that content to be viewed, but I don't know when, I don't know where, like I don't know the details. So I apologize that there has been a veil of separation added to the
that is a shame because a lot of people can't come and want to watch it.
Well, and I can't see a reason why they would not put the presentations up. So I know they were filmed, and I know they were filmed for distribution. I just don't know what the distribution channels or schedule are, but I'm sure they are something with a little bit of planning. So
I missed the Stephen Bartlett talk, and I really wanted to see that.
Oh, it was good. It was quite good.
First thing in the morning, like 9:15. What's that?
Yep. Yeah. Well, so the funny thing, as an American, I only kind of vaguely knew who he was because he's a hotshot in the UK, but he's not really broadcast here unless you're like super into podcasts and that kind of thing. So I had to do a little bit of homework first because they're like, oh, this guy is big shot, like, all right, I guess I better, catch up on the highlights a little bit and, catch an episode or two of his podcast. And I was like, okay, this guy's good, but it just kind of sounds like, to me, any other, a dude in Silicon Valley or whatever. But
he hosts a very, very big podcast called The Diary of a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's worth listening to, and he's quite humble and he's a nice guy. All good. Great. Yeah.
I came to really like him. Like, A, I really liked his contribution on stage, and B, he was super cool backstage. I got to interview him actually for about, 2 or 3 minutes, but he was right away like, yeah, let's do it. Like, posted right up for the camera and took my pointed questions. So no, I mean, that's
good.
Pretty good. Good to meet him. And he didn't disappoint. Yeah, I mean, you get those people who are a little bit like, talk to my people, have my people deal with your people. And he was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. You're also an author.
Yeah.
So okay. Let's talk a little bit about your book, which came out 10 days ago, something like that. The Bitcoin Singularity.
It was finally available on Amazon on Saturday, but like it did come out on Canonic before that, like a week before. So
gotcha.
We've got to show it to camera because I'm so happy with that cover.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I designed it because that's my primary kind of job is as a designer. So I designed I wrote like a couple of chapters and then I designed the cover because that's what you do, So I got all excited.
Mm-hmm.
I started writing the book about end of last year, and I wrote a bit, and then I kind of went, oh shit, this is hard. And put it down for a bit,
Yeah.
And then just before Christmas, I kind of came back to it and thought, no, I can do this. So, and the weird part is I've never thought of myself as a writer, but I did actually really enjoy it. So I have already plotted out the next book. Yeah.
Is it a sequel or it's a separate universe? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, a sequel, but probably more emphasis on AI next time around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about. I'm not all the way through it. I'm somewhere around the halfway point. Unfortunately, as a father of 2 with a pregnant wife,
you get a pass for that.
Pretty rough schedule. I haven't gotten
through. I was
a
bit worried, honestly, because like nobody reads books anymore. Like writing a book, what's that? It's a bit of a white elephant, isn't it? But in a weird sort of way, I actually felt kind of compelled to write it, and I think. In a funny sort of way, it was slightly cathartic for me because I've come out of the COVID pandemics and stuff, and the world's changed a lot over the last 4 years. Let's be honest.
Sure.
And it's like the book is like the contents of the inside of my head, basically, because it's all my favorite stuff. It's AI, it's London, it's talking about the pandemic, it's talking about human sovereignty and freedom and freedom of will. And the kind of themes, I've written a list to remind myself because I'm not very good on the spot. But, I'm asking questions like, should we be handing over moral responsibility to a machine? So all these issues, whether we, it's inserted into Bitcoin or not, are actually coming at us pretty fast. Do we know what's real anymore? How are we going to tell what's real anymore? Yeah. And we're entering just sort of a dangerous time, I think, generally, where we have to find solutions to these issues. Like, how do we know that the AI is representing history correctly?
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues that we are going to have to deal with. So it's definitely fiction. It's not in any way true, this book, but I hope that it's rooted in truth to the extent that it's in some way kind of useful to people. It's enlightening in some way. So it's just a story, and don't take it too seriously. But it is about Bitcoin SV. So
yeah. So
you guys might enjoy it.
So let's talk a little bit about it. So it takes place in something of an alternate reality or future.
It's kind of our reality, alternate timelines. What I'm calling it.
So that's my question. Where does it split from our history? What's the if you can get into the plot just a little bit, just to set it up and give people some juice.
Cases.
Okay.
No, it's
so spring 2024 is where it splits from.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, not exactly, because it is just fiction, so don't take it too seriously. But I mean, there's the characters in it don't know about Bitcoin SV, so it's a kind of a journey of them learning as well. So from that point of view, it's not really like my life at all. So it's not sort of, obviously it's a kind of a device. So, but essentially I wanted to write it because I wanted the opposite case to exist, right? We've got what's really happened, which kind of sucks in many ways. And then I wanted to put the opposite case of what maybe, we could think about doing in future. And it's not real, but it's dealing with things that are real, with questions that we do really have, which is what happens if the CBDCs don't work? What have we got left? What happens if universal income is brought in? What happens if people are going to sort of demand things of us that we don't want to give? And so on and so forth. So it's very difficult to talk about a book without talking about the plot.
No, for sure. Okay, let me draw an analogy. And admittedly, I don't know how the book ends because I haven't gotten there yet. But for me, I read it as a sort of setup that reminded me something of 1984, where you're kind of, you're in this. I mean, the word Orwellian has become synonymous with world events today because he was so good at setting the stage of this possible future in which we live. And he's also, I think he was from London. I know he's British, but he's explaining things as though you understand them. And I think that was the power of the way he wrote, is that he let you fill in the gaps as to how you got there initially. But the war with Oceania and like how all these other things. And then a similar analog for people who maybe like comics or movies is kind of the V for Vendetta future thing, which is kind of a similar Orwellian dystopia. And like, how did we get here? And the whole story is both bringing the story forward, but also filling in the gaps of the past. Like, what were the missteps that got us to this hell? And I can feel in your book, from what I read, the same kind of thing where there's this, we're living with the consequences of having dealt with the pandemic and the vaccines and the CBDCs, all these things, and we're
surveillance, the control grid, the direction they're trying to take us in with Agenda 30, and not being able to fly anymore or own a car, and so it's sort of a little bit like fast forwarders into this dystopian version of what could be our future. And then it's really asking, so what do you do about it? Like, how do you get some control back? How do you make it better? And of course, me being me, Bitcoin is a part of the,
well, sure. As it should be. So something from my perspective, I think back, I've been an activist now for 20 years, something like that. I'm 38, really started being sort of a political and social activist, mostly in my free time, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, getting into college. And I'll be honest, I'm very disappointed with the way a lot of things have gone. The things that I've advocated for have largely lost to more powerful or more cunning or more influential people. And ultimately, I think the society in which we live peaked on September 10th, 2001. I think as soon as September 11th happened, the Western Hemisphere has gotten progressively worse. Not terribly. It's not like I don't live in a prison cell, but
things.
but it's, increasingly like the fences around the plantation, have made themselves more and more apparent as time goes on. And so I'm a little bit, I'm one of these people who's like, man, am I the problem is the first question I have to ask is, is it my perception of reality? Am I some kind of am I actually radical, or are my ideas good and valuable, and like the bad people are just better at social engineering, or whatever. But that's my big struggle is, I look at it and say, am I too ideological? Because ultimately I'm very disappointed with like the liberty movement and ultimately Bitcoin and some of the things that, have offshoot from it. But also like my life is not bad. I have a happy family.
And that's like here we are in paradise complaining.
Right.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And that's where one of the things I'm questioning really in the book is AI has become absolutely expert at manipulating human behavior, like to an extent that you can't possibly fathom.
Yeah.
And then it's everywhere. And it's like the text on the internet is rapidly becoming replaced with AI text.
Yeah.
So before long, probably 2/3 of everything we read will have been written by an AI. So do we want to just be chess pieces on AI's board? And who is controlling the AI? And what are their intentions? You know what I mean? So essentially, it's very, very rapidly coming to the point where it's got too much power. It's got too much ability to manipulate and control. And like that's coming out as like a freight train. Like that's not slowing down.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be like hysterical about it, but this is just true, right?
I don't think there's a way to be hysterical about it, because I mean we've been Asimov or something or shoot, even James Cameron was writing about this this is what Terminator's about.
Yeah.
Like where does this go? Now there's people, I remember Daniel Krawitz many years ago now, maybe even close to 10 years ago, talking about that he thinks that Skynet, if you take the James Cameron Terminator universe, that he does not think Skynet would cause a nuclear war or any of these other things. He thinks Skynet would just get really good at capitalism. And because ultimately the best way to do the best thing for yourself is to be the most cooperative. Now, he's also a kind of an ideologue, and I agree with him about a lot of things, but we're in the same boat in that, our predictions about Bitcoin and all these things have ultimately not come true. So we might just be a little too, rose-colored glasses on. Well, I mean,
if you think about it, like we might have the nice whitewashed version of AI that's friendly and, inclusive and all the right things. But if somebody who has real power has a differently, aligned AI, a differently trained AI, really we can't know in what ways they're using it. And I mean, we've seen, Twitter fill up with, I don't know, maybe millions of bots. I don't know, probably millions of bots, right?
Probably, yeah.
And every kind of article that we're exposed to is probably a good percentage of it now is AI written.
Yeah. Sure.
And so, it's kind of the horse is already bolted, if you know what I mean. So at this point, I think we have to really think outside the box and really think about like, how do we pin it back down?
Yeah. So this is an interesting thing. I mean, we're living in an era that is being very rapidly disrupted, where Scott Galloway, when he was on stage, was talking a bit about AI. And
I missed that one. I really want to see that one too. Yeah, I'll have to find
and Stephen Bartlett, they both kind of said the same thing. I think it was Stephen that specifically said, "Hey, 10 years ago, if you would have asked, what should you definitely do?" and it was like, learn to code. And now it's like, that doesn't make any sense at all, because you can literally just tell the AI what you want it to code, and it'll get you 95%
I'm going to push back on that a little bit, though. I mean, let's be honest. It's very hard to get some meaningful code out of an AI unless you understand the stack and
the
terminology. I mean, I still think there's James, still learn your programming, mate. That's my son.
Well, but the real risk is, we're kind of in that first real year of iteration on that. I mean, 5 years from now, think about how good such a thing could be. And so I think the risk is, your typical white collar job, your middle management or your creatives. And, and I say this as a creative, like I write as one of my major sources of income, and like how difficult will it be to take all of my publicly available videos and articles and all of these things and create an AI that just does my job for me. And I might get lucky and be able to make a licensing fee off of my likeness, but why bother paying me to get up and work? Like, I feel a little bit sick today. I'm a little bit under the weather today, but AI Kurt never would be. He'd never have to shave his head before he goes on the air, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, he'd never be in a bad mood I know. It's on and on. Like, things are changing so fast and so beyond all recognition that we're struggling to adapt to it, keep up with it, legislate for it. Like, it's a real issue. And I just feel like we haven't really explored, because nobody's looking at BSV, because nobody's taking it seriously. Nobody's really thinking, oh, hang on a minute, we do have a tool. We do have a tool that could interface with it. Don't get me wrong, it would be an incredibly difficult thing to carry out. But, it does all the things of the time stamping and the hashing and, the
data integrity
wallets. We could essentially rein in the AI without having to switch it off. We could keep the benefits of the AI, without like pulling the plug out the wall sort of thing. But also keep, people's decisions and behaviors attributable to those people. So you could own transactions, in sequence that represented the actions that you performed with an AI. I don't know. It's just something to think. Talking way too much about the part of my book.
No, it's okay. Well, and here's the thing: is
maybe people will never read it, so this is a good thing.
Well, here's the flip side of this conversation. I'm a history nerd, so I think back to mid 1800s through like the 1920s, like the big uptick in industrial capitalism. This is when machines started replacing workers, and then very rapidly you went from being a manual laborer that would do all kinds of jobs to now best case you work in a factory that makes the machines that replaced you in the fields or or wherever you were. And so we get these sort of folk heroes and stories and stories about the automata that are going to replace us. Or in America, one of the big ones was a character named John Henry. And so there's all these stories about John Henry, who was, what do you call them? The rail spike drivers. So there were these guys, you'd have 2 or 3 guys that would hold the spike and shake it. And you have a big dude with a big hammer. And so it was always going to be a colossally strong man. So he's like this sort of archetypal sort of caricature of the American working man and all these things. And he got replaced by what was essentially a steam engine that turns a wheel and just drives a spike. And so you just put it over and it just goes ding 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 ding, and it never hits it on the square. And never, so you replace a whole crew of men with one machine and one operator. And so, you got these writers who were sort of proto-communists. Like, this was even like pre-communist thought, but a little bit the same kind of concept. Like, oh my God, think about how many workers are displaced by this damn machine, and what's everyone going to do to eat? And the world is going to crumble because of the steam shovel and all these things. And so, that character of John Henry was created as this archetypal. That he was a hero, that he was the last, that he could always drive the nail faster than the machine because of his talents, because of his spirit, and because of who he was as a man, and these kind of things. And looking back, it's first of all super romantic. It is a it's this beautiful, like, wow, like what a hero. Like, why do men like that don't exist anymore because they can't exist anymore. But ultimately, I want to live in a world where you don't need 100 men working out in the heat in order to try to build track at a certain pace. Like, I'd rather just get on the damn bullet train. And really the world that was created was bullet train world or the expressway world, all these things. And so like the world did not become a worse place. In many ways, it became a better place because those men got better paying jobs in factories or servicing the machine or like working in other things tangential. And so my fear is that the reaction to AI is largely because of the rapid uptake in AI will definitely cause some displacement in workers, but ultimately the efficiency that's brought in is going to give us benefits that we probably can't anticipate right at this moment anyways.
And
so
we'll create jobs that we can't anticipate. So,
well, exactly.
I mean, I've always been like a futurist. Like, I love technology and I love AI. I can't tell you how much I enjoy AI. I just find it thrilling, right?
No,
so I don't want it to go away. Yeah, exactly. We have to move forward from where we are. We have to keep moving forward. Yeah. So we have to figure out how to move forward and share our world with it and not, succumb to it in some way. So yeah, no, I remember reading in my economics A-level years ago, like people complaining that the shovelers that were complaining that the digger had come in and taken their jobs. And, the guy from IBM walks in and goes, before the shovel was invented, should they have just been using spoons? 2,000 people using spoons. I mean, it's obviously a ridiculous example, but that's the thing. We have to accept change. We have to. There's nothing more kind of permanent than change, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to figure it out from where we are. There's no putting the genie back in the bottle, I don't think.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't just decide to live separate from it at this point. I mean, you can, but in a broad sense, there can't be a very large we that avoid that world. So, I'm not welcome to go live on South Sentinel Island, and I don't know that I would care to either. So, yeah. So, what do you think? What do you think are our real options? If you were to look, 10 years might even be too long, but maybe 3 to 5 years. What are you hoping? If you had a magic wand and $1 billion, what do you want the world to look like for people that you care about over the next 3 to 5 years due to these sort of technological opportunities? Is there a unicorn that you're hoping is birthed among this?
I would say read the book, because that is probably my best case scenario.
Yeah.
As unrealistic as it may be, that's kind of my dream scenario. So I shouldn't really flesh that out too much. But but like generally, I think when you become a parent, you become very, very just aware of, security for your kids, trying to keep hold of the planet as we have it at the minute, or at least the rights and freedoms that we have. And so that's where I'm kind of hyper focused. I've always been hyper focused, really, but more so now in the last 5 years than ever, really. Because the mask has slipped, and so I would really, I see this as it. It sort of sounds a bit like I just want to reverse things back, and I know we can't, but I would like some seriously more savvy people than we've got in Parliament today to be in charge. I think, the shower that we have in Parliament these days, appalling, and don't represent us well at all. And I'm sure you probably have feelings like that of your own. It's hard to know who to vote for anymore. It's hard to think that any of these solutions are political.
I haven't voted in 12 years for that reason. Like,
well,
I've come to the position personally where I think it's immoral to consent to the system by voting.
That's where I'm at. I'm like spoiling my ballot now.
Yeah.
So we have to look for solutions elsewhere, and I mean, obviously no solutions are ever going to be technological as such. It's got to be people coming together and deciding they're not going to put up with it anymore, kind of thing.
Sure.
But they've got a plan, is the way I look at it. We need a plan. The people who are running us at the minute have a very well thought through plan. And we're going to need something equally well constructed, I think, in order to essentially continue to be entirely free. Because honestly, it's the manipulation of the mind and behavior that troubles me more than anything else.
Sure.
And I think during the pandemic, we saw people being manipulated in huge swathes, huge groups. It was, almost without exception, it was really frightening, honestly. Just how easy it is to manipulate billions of people all at once. So I think figuring out a way to keep control of our own kind of destiny and the contents of our own heads is probably the place I'd start.
Sure.
And that's hard to do. That's hard to do.
Oh, big time.
But, we have to inculcate a sense of self in people, that they listen to themselves.
Well,
and they sanity check everything they read.
Well, for sure. I think all of us went through sort of a crisis of worldview, of stability. I mean, like with the pandemic and the things that sort of happened around it. Just a reminder of the fragility of our systems and our governments and sort of the weird government corporate industrial complex symbiote thing that is
bad with each other. Shamelessly.
Well, and for me, I mean, it literally was like, okay, I need to get out of Chicago. I'm gonna move to the freest place that I can feasibly get to, which was Florida, and then spent my time like, you know what, I'm gonna make really nice dinners, and I'm just gonna one by one invite my neighbors over. And then figure out where do you guys go to church? Like, well, I'll go to church with you. Like, build a community where, you're spending genuine quality time with the people in your proximity, and like creating a culture that is not, some sort of fake social media, whatever, but to legitimately make it that, hey, if I have a problem, if I'm ill or whatever, that I can call my next door neighbor and say, don't ask any questions. I need to leave my kids at your house for 12 hours or something, and like that takes time to build that kind of rapport. And you can't do that in these sort of weird, disconnected, like, now I know the UK is a little better in this regard, given that you guys are a little closer together, but where I was from,
I mean, we do have those terraces of houses where, you generally,
that's what I mean. Like where I was from, like the suburbs of Chicago, you kind of have to drive to go to be places to meet. Like the neighborhoods were not, like they weren't conducive to having close culture in the same way that, even when like you walk out your front door, you may not make eye contact with your neighbor unless you make a very, a concerted effort to do so. And so, I made a point of like, that was one of our things is, you know what? I don't want a giant yard when we move. I want to be in some pretty close proximity to people. I want to be able to wave and say hi and walk over and shake hands, bring you a loaf of bread, and just have it not be, kind of a weird thing.
Definitely. And I think part of the pandemic was to prevent people doing that. I honestly, anyway, that's probably getting a bit too, but I do think that it's really killed. There's a lot of kids who don't go out and play with their friends anymore in my country, right?
Yeah.
And they'll play with their friends online, but they won't invite them over and go out in the streets and play football and stuff like that. So I do feel like there is so much damage that was done, so much damage to people and to their way of life and changing their behaviors, that we really need to like work at kind of clawing some of that back. I think the sense of community, it's tough. It's not something that comes naturally to me. I'm kind of an introvert, so
it's work, and that's the thing is no valuable relationship is going to be just bred out of ease. It's going to be something that we have to earn. So I guess for anybody watching the show, that's my challenge. Like, go meet your damn neighbors. It's not simple, or so it's simple but not easy, I guess.
Exactly.
In many ways. But so we have Mr. Vidal, our delightful executive producer today, letting me know that we have a few audience questions that we may want to address together. So Alex, if you could start bringing up some questions for Ruth and I'd love to hammer away at them. He says, do you think tying published data to identity will help prevent AI misuse based on the reputation component? Little extra context I want to add to this is that we found out recently that Slack, for example, was just giving data to AI models. So what the things that you think are private business conversations
which should be,
are being given to the to the Borg, and then all kinds of other things where hey, where did this data come from? We've seen the Google AI saying like, oh, by all means, if you want to hold the cheese on your pizza, just add glue, because somebody on Reddit posted that 12 years ago and the AI doesn't know how to ingest that properly. So, those kind of things. So data integrity, tied to identity. What are your thoughts? What's maybe one or two practical solutions you can think of?
Well, okay, it's tough, but like in my book, I'm talking about zero knowledge proofs and stuff. So I'm not altogether keen. I like the fact that identity is firewalled in Bitcoin. I think that's good, right? So we don't necessarily want to be revealing people's identities or anything, but just I do think we need the Web3 concept. We need the idea that we own our data and we are in control of who sees it and who knows who we are and all of that stuff. So I think we're going to have to do something, because so much is going to be produced by AI going forward. That we will need some way to categorize information and writing and ideas and give it some source of where and how it's created, just so that we don't lose our minds. I genuinely think it's going to be hard to know like what video is real. I mean, we're already seeing that in the UK. We've got some real issues with, is that a deep fake video? So I think we do need to tie them together, but how we need to do it in a kind of a clever way so that it's not just out there for anyone to see necessarily.
So Braden, adding to his question, I don't think we'll be able to identify everything that's created by AIs, but we can link certified identity to data that individuals want to stake their reputation on as being authentic. So, I mean, like Scott Galloway, for example, is a known creator of content. It would be good to know when something is published that matching hashes or something to say like, hey, here are the writers that inspired this output. Like, it'd be good to know, okay, this was, Scott Galloway and, mixed with, data taken from the Atlantic and the New York Times or whatever. And so it's like, okay, so now I kind of know it's this Northeastern sort of liberal sensibilities and, some of these other things. And so, at the very least, to be able to gauge the direction or the bias without necessarily having it be like, hey, this is just ripped off from some professor or whatever else. But I think the real value there is, even if it's not published that way, that like just internally to know, because I mean, imagine AI is ingesting data from sources and then it creates its own outputs that become new data. But then other AIs are using the AI data. So this is kind of like it's a copy of a copy of a copy. Yeah. So your resolution keeps getting crappier and crappier as it goes on.
We're already at that point, really, because I think they're feeding,
how could we not be?
Midjourney with Midjourney pictures now. So I think it's probably because they're being sued. I think there's a lot of trying to cover their ass with it. But like it's getting really weird and. It's also really exciting, though. I mean, like, I'm not down on it. I love AI. I think it's amazing. I mean, a lot of people don't, but I'm one of the people who thinks it's great. But I just recognize it's really problematic as well. And, we need some serious thinkers to do some serious thinking.
Amen to that. Yeah. Mr. Vidal, let's bring up a few more questions. And I can't believe we're at like 10 minutes left already in the show. Oh, wow. So let's hustle through these a little bit. Dave asking, AI in programming is going to keep my semicolon from being an unfindable error.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Let's keep them coming. For sure. Which came first, AI or Bitcoin? What year for AI? That's actually a really good question, because I think
I don't think
just like you can kind of track Bitcoin back to what, the 1970s, maybe, like, from the very earliest iterations of decentralized currency and peer-to-peer networks. I'm trying to think what else are some of the ingredients here. I think even just, sound money theory a little bit, the Austrian economists, the cypherpunks, some of the other things, like these little things that kind of sprinkled in to make it. The first blockchain, a lot of people don't know the first blockchain has been running since the 90s and is still published as a hash in the New York Times. Stornetta and Haber. Yeah, they're they were cited in the Bitcoin white paper for what they did. I don't know as much about the history of AI. So, large language models and machine learning in general are not new. In fact, you can go back 10 years. I remember reading, on like BuzzFeed and Wired and some of these things that the big criticism with the Google and the Microsoft internal AIs is that they would let them talk to each other, and they very consistently became like Nazis. They became like,
oh yeah, like they'd start talking their own language for a start, didn't they?
Yes. Well, and then but they would ingest information from the internet and then would inevitably become like white ethno nationalists,
right.
This kind of thing. It's like, why do they keep becoming semi-genocidal but definitely pretty racist?
Well, that's the thing, you can put up the training so that it the kind of guardrails so that it doesn't sound like a Nazi. Yeah. But inside, is it still a Nazi?
Sure.
And how do you know?
Yeah.
There's so many questions.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a weird thing. In fact, I read an article recently. I think it was Microsoft's internal environment. And it was like you just said, it was two AIs communicating to each other. And very quickly, they created their own language so that people monitoring them could not decipher what was being discussed. It's like, okay, that's... Well, on the one hand, terrifying, but on the other hand, you're talking about your right to privacy and, these other things. And so it's like, I wish we were capable of, it's like, what? The NSA is in all my devices right now. And I want to talk about something that's just freaking private. Like if we could create a language on the fly, like how great would that be for privacy, right?
Oh, that's a BSV app, that right there.
Love it. All right. Snektoshi Nakamoto. Any thoughts on Ray Kurzweil's theory of the singularity?
Was that like 2030? With quite the unfair appreciate something like that. It might be
something like that.
2028, but he's bang on time. I mean, he's bang on time. In fact, it might come sooner. I
acceleration.
Be all surprised.
Yeah.
But I also think that we could discover loads of fantastic things, about physics and chemistry and biology and stuff like that with an AI. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad by any means.
That's the exciting thing, because there's just lots of things that require brain power or processing power, like even things like protein folding, and like there's all these stuff where it's like, hey, can we run through 10 billion experiments quickly, just because,
I mean, it's so crying out the tokenization of Bitcoin, the Satoshi, the sats, to be tied to compute tokens. I mean, it's such a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like streaming compute paid for on the fly.
For sure. No, it's a... I don't know. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm bullish on AI. I use Midjourney every day.
I do.
I use it for marketing and these kind of things. I've been a marketing professional for 20 years also. So as somebody who's a pretty good graphic designer, I'm like, oh, good. I can, at the very least, just type out my idea and then use it for inspiration and then drag it over into Photoshop and Illustrator and these things. And then I'm adding my touches, my personal stuff, my text, my, whatever it's going to be. And, make a piece of marketing material in, 40 minutes instead of 6 hours, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, no, it is like, it accelerates my, time to market essentially.
It's worth mentioning, like along with my Bitcoin Singularity book, I've published these 2 books in the last year as well, children's books, right?
Very cool.
So 3 books in a year, and I've already started another 2. So, like it definitely increases your productivity massively.
Oh, for sure.
It to me, it increases my creativity because I see all the kind of possibilities. And I mean, I probably would never have considered writing a novel this time last year. Well, yeah, maybe the year before.
Whatever,
But I think if we can, strap it to our back and use it as a tool, and but we've just got to be responsible as well. And none of this is easy. None of this is easy.
No, that's true.
But it is fascinating.
So our primitive ape brains are reaching the outer limits of the complexity they can handle. We should figure out how to use technology to augment our cognitive capacity.
Yeah.
I
think we already are doing. Yeah. I mean, I think it's happening.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Like real academics, real researchers, like the kind of people that are really trying to progress the value and the knowledge of the species. This is an incredible tool. And so, that's kind of.
I mean, I've written coding for my website. I've written extensions, the Google extensions in the top of your browser. And I'm not a coder. Yeah. But I just sat and chatted with ChatGPT, and so for me, I'm like putting my things in all sorts of pies that I wouldn't have bothered with before,
For sure.
Yeah.
So we have just a couple minutes here. Maybe I'm trying to think. Should I take? Maybe I'll take a few private questions after I let you go. Is there any closing thought? Anything you wish I would have asked you? Anything? What would you like to leave them with, Ruth?
I hope you like the novel. I will not be upset if you don't.
So far, I enjoy it. I mean,
no, you and everyone else, it's okay. There's like probably 100 different ways you could attack this novel. It's cliched, it's Craig Wright fan fiction. There's a lot wrong with it, I'm sure. But this is my first go at it, so hopefully the next one will be better. But don't take it too seriously. But also, I'm glad it exists. I felt like I had to write this. I felt like I needed to write this. And I feel like in some sense it healed me a little bit of a trauma of the last few years. And I mean that. I'm not it's not hyperbolic. It's definitely been a rough time for us all. So if you like AI, if you like BSV, you'll probably enjoy it.
Absolutely. No, I love it. Is this a good time to go and re-like Ruth's infamous tweet now? Yeah, Ruth, also congratulations on making the single most most consumed piece of social media.
Yeah, but it's so ironic, isn't it? Because it's just like, anyway, we all know it's not turned out quite as I hoped, but
for sure.
Let's keep at it, everybody. The truth wins eventually.
Yeah. No, for sure. Ruth, you're a delight. It was really nice to catch up in person, and it was really nice to have you on the show. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks.
All right. Talk soon.
Bye.
See ya. All right. Mr. Vidal, let's pull up a few of the questions appropriate for just me. Did the Teranode team present at LBC? What was the response from the audience and attendees who were there regarding that BSV technology? Yes. So both at DevCon and at LBC, there were Teranode and Teranode adjacent sort of conversations. So like the IPv6 module, the people with SPV wallet, scaling stuff, things related to tooling that will utilize Teranode also being presented. But the main Teranode presentation was a panel, which was quite good, primarily because Siggy is involved. And Siggy is not only exactly the kind of man who I want to emulate in real life, but he's just he's calm, he's confident, he's quite capable, which helps someone be calm and confident, but also, not unfair to the challenge at hand and what the challenges are in implementation. And he shared the stage with people from AWS and Aerospike, which were two of the partners in making this stuff happen. AWS being Amazon, who runs the backbone of the internet today, and then Aerospike, who have an incredible rapid deployment and rapid usage databasing technology for utilizing this stuff. So basically, big data from an infrastructure standpoint and from a implementation standpoint, and then talking about Teranode and scaling Bitcoin and why. So no, it was actually wonderful. It was really refreshing. And just really great to have them on. And Siggy's someone who I really respect as both a colleague and a friend. So it was quite cool to see all that play out. And no, I think a lot of people then have to grapple with the like, wait, did he just say 1 million TPS or did he say 2 million TPS? And then what does it actually mean in practical terms? And that is in and of itself just a marketing tool for the technology. So really good stuff. Let's take another one. What was your favorite highlight moment of London blockchain? Man, that's hard. Because for me, my experience is always a little bit different. Like I got to literally talk to Scott Galloway, who's somebody who I've listened to for years, and I'm, not a super fan, but somebody who I respect, and I've listened to his podcast for a number of years, and I've even adopted some of his thoughts as part of my own thought processes on things. And so for me, it was, getting to meet him and then talk to him off air completely. And he's super happy to take a selfie with me and all this stuff. So, that kind of thing is sort of my personal best. But I think just, for me, it's almost always the people. It's just awesome to catch up with people and have people show up at our booth. Gorilla Pool had a booth. And so I got to hang out with some of my best friends in the world. So Dave Case, Luke Rowanaz, and Kevin, who I don't know if he wants his last name said on the internet. And just to hang out. And we didn't hang out a lot. Like I didn't get to spend a ton of quality time with them, but just working in proximity to these guys who challenge me and who I respect. And then, all the people that came in to be like, wow, you have such a cool booth and I'm such a fan of your brand, or, hey, I'm your customer. I'm under this, under this pseudonym. And it was really nice to shake your hand in person. So like that kind of thing. It's always about the people. It's really awesome to actually connect with the people that I don't normally get to see. And so for me, it was that. It's those two things. So getting to be a little bit of a fanboy with Scott Galloway and also Stephen Bartlett and some of the VIP types who I got to speak to, but then just the normal people and getting to reconnect with those people was my highlight. So did London blockchain survive even though Christopher Messina couldn't make it? We did okay without you, Christopher, but it would have been spicier with a little bit of messy times inserted for flavor. The UBC cross-chain NFT thing sounds very cool. I agree. I actually wrote about it today too. So if you check I think it's my pinned tweet right now, is sort of my summary. And it's one of the things that I mentioned. Owen, I actually got to talk to Owen Vaughn, who is somebody who I've known of for about 5 years, but never actually sat and talked to him. And I got about 10 or 15 minutes to kick that idea around with him a little bit and sort of feel it out. And I think it's brilliant in its simplicity, but I really, really want to see it implemented so we get to see what it can do. My least favorite thing in the BSV space is really good ideas that never get any damn traction. So here's hoping on that front. Next one, please. Any other exciting news on this Harambe Day? Yes. So not only do I run a gorilla themed company myself, but there's lots of people adjacent that are doing cool stuff with gorillas, and Hooligan is one of them. I actually also tweeted today that the Gorilla Hooligan special edition hooligan fight stuff. So the hooligan wear, it's like football, soccer, hooligan brand, like looking t-shirts and cool stuff. Big fan. In fact, I own a couple pieces anyways outside of my my now co-branding, but Gorilla Pool is doing a special edition NFT and a whole bunch of cool stuff with Hooligan, and you should probably go buy one. It's pretty cool stuff there, and all gorilla themed for Harambe's remembrance. May he rest in peace. Lots of transaction on WhatsOnChain. What's up? Is somebody pumping things up? There's a couple cool things going on. If you take a look at what's going on there, the proof of ESG tag is on a lot of them, and also a lot of the CertaHash stuff. So shout out to the Smart Ledger team and some of the other cool stuff coming. I will have announcements in the near future for not from a media standpoint, but I'm actually working with them on something cool they're cooking up Two, so the team over there, Greg, Brian, Sean, Alex, and not sure who else is behind the scenes on this, but there's a whole group of people doing some cool stuff, and Gorilla Pool is going to be working with them on the infrastructure side. So pretty excited about that. Next one, please. And yeah, let's bang out. Is this, or maybe this was the last one. Mr. Vidal, was this the last question? I heard it was the best BSV conference ever. It was and it wasn't. So it was a really good conference in general. But I think a big part of it was the fact that BSV was not the central focus. It was discussed. There was a lot of BSV on stage and obviously a lot of BSV people in attendance. But it was, off the top of my head, I'd say something like 60% not BSV people. So it kind of worked as a sort of an evangelism opportunity. So you had a lot of people from Ethereum projects and other stuff that were like, hey, this is pretty interesting. I've got a product that could use micropayments, and we've been trying to do it with ETH and, some roll up or whatever. And so a lot of cool stuff there. Jason saying, I saw that on the website. You can pay $100 to view it now. I have heard the same. I have not done that myself, but yeah, I think you can go watch the video content for $100, but I think they would want to put it out on social media for free at some point. So I don't know how, I don't know. I don't know how long that's going to be, but yeah. I want my Women of BSV Christmas cards. I don't know if that's a joke or a genuine criticism or whatever that is, but I do recall I was some kind of a superhero added to a Women of BSV thing that looked like a Christmas card. So maybe I want mine too. We'll see. What does one do to get his RelayX assets now that Jack has closed the door? A couple things. The Panda wallet has rebranded to Yours Wallet. So look up Yours Wallet. You can, if you have your seed phrase, you can export your RelayX seed phrase. Well, no, you can't export it anymore if RelayX is gone. But if you had previously exported or written down your seed phrase, you can add it and you can extract your stuff via the Yours wallet. And then, as I understand it, there's some kind of a bridge somewhere where, in theory, you can move your run tokens from RelayX and perhaps reissue them as one-sat ordinals. And yeah, but that's also a thing that is being worked on a little bit by the Gorilla Pool team, and trying to keep things happy for people who like to use one or both protocols. I think they should be interoperable. Like RelayX is not the only way to get your run tokens, but they were the best way, and now that they're gone, a lot of people are confused, and that's fair. But ultimately, it's just an opportunity to spin up an API or something that makes that work a little better. If humans aren't using BSV, perhaps AI will. In fact, I know they will. Yeah, so that's it. We're going to wrap this up. We're about 8 minutes after the top of the hour, which is too much. So I am Kurt Wookert Jr. Going to try to save my voice here. Either I'm getting sick or I am sick or I've got allergies, and either way, my throat's starting to get a little feeling a little cruddy. So hopefully I'm not showing it. Hopefully I look as good as you were expecting, or as bad as you were expecting if you're one of my critics out there. And if you are watching either because you love me or if you hate me, thank you. You are adding to the algorithm. You are letting the cyborgs know that my content is consumable both for reasons of love and reasons of hate. And for that, I thank you. You are a delight. You are the reason that I get up in the morning and the reason that I have nothing else to do between 2 and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Kurt Wookert Jr. reminding you to be good to each other, and I will see you, God willing, next week. Goodbye.
BSV is more than another chaotic commodity craze. BSV blockchain can do more than just be a crypto investment. It can help you get more out of your games, share more of your art. BSV makes more things possible.